I met an old man on Parliament Street. He had the most piercing eyes. He told me about the beats that haunt the streets, and to me this was a big surprise. He said, listen close and you will find there's a trace in every song, a pulse on every street. And he left me with the question, who put the beat in merseybeat?
Put the beat right. Put the beat right. Put the beat right.
Liverpool has a music heritage going right back.
I can't sit still.
Put the beat
You had the folk songs and the country music. Then you had a fantastic black music scene. The biggest thing that happened since Motown. It was just magic, complete magic.
Hi guys. Alright. Safe. Look at this crew. Yo, you walking in my rhythm or am I walking to your time? And the music? Did you make it? Did you find it? Or did you bring it? Anyway, it's here. The sounds of the motion, of the rhythm of the ocean.
When the seamen come home, they used to buy some beer. They get guitars, and most of them houses had basements then, and that's why they call them cellar parties. And then they'd all sit around and play music.
Well, my father played mandolin. They called him Jack Mando, and guitar. He was a beautiful man. And he didn't play English music, excuse me. He was a Muslim, my father. There's 3 table marks, I remember that. But he had people from other parts of the world with him. Like he sailed with Norwegian seamen, Irish guys, you know. And they'd all come and stay in my auntie's. And the music was there. Calypsos, and there was lots of Irish music in the background, and country and western, strangely enough. And African people like country and western music. And my father used to play this high life music, and it's kind of magic, man.
My father's from Ghana, which was then called the Gold Coast. And he was the choir master at a church, it's called African Churches Mission. He was the organist and also the choir master. So obviously I was a member of the choir. We tended to do sort of spiritual type, Negro spiritual type numbers, you know. So I think that's the way harmony came to me.
My grandmother was an Irish woman who married an African seaman. And I think in Liverpool at that time, most of the black men who were in Liverpool were seamen. And so we used to get a lot of music brought home from America. The house was always full of music. There used to be certain record used to come on in somebody's room. And all of a sudden, everything would stop in the house. And all of us would start singing, my mother included, you know. And, you know, it was always like that.
2 or 3 of us would go on a ship together, and we always took guitars with us. And when the ship reached the first port in Africa, which would be Freetown, they used to bring aboard some Africans, like extra crew. Well, when they come, they'd always bring guitars with them. So overnight time, we'd all sit on the deck and we'd be playing these African songs, and we used to learn the songs off them, you know. They had their own style of playing, you know, which was very unique, and it was really nice.
It looks and feels and sounds the same. A reverberation, an old refrain, a collaboration of all who came before the fame, the face, the name. Whoa! Who are these guys? What are they doing here?
We're coming along the road. And we saw these thousands of men all marching along the road like that. And I couldn't believe my eyesight because I didn't know about America. I didn't know that there was other people around, and there was piles of coloured men about 12 foot tall. They all looked that way to me. They looked enormous, and hundreds of them. Everywhere you looked, there was Americans everywhere, just literally everywhere.
They were black guys, man, and I think the American Air Force or whatever it was, they came into town. And a lot of the guys in Liverpool loved it. Till the girls started getting taken off them probably, but they brought music, they brought money, and they brought a lot of love with them.
There was a lot of Americans around, and it made it quite interesting. And I used to sit down and we all talk about music. I always went to music, you know, amongst black people. I don't know, it's something they just like, you know what I mean?
There's always pianists and, you know, boogie-woogie music and trumpets and saxophones. There was always somebody, if you know. So that made the music.
The musicians they had around Liverpool from the American base, because they were down here in, what I would say, hundreds at the weekend. And you'd see a fella there and he was standing there and he said, "Can I have a go?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Well, there were some very good musicians."
And they were out of top bands because everyone had to go in the army. It didn't matter who you was, so you'd probably get some really top musicians in the band.
Oh, listen to that. This place is pumping with life and jazz and rhythms and vibes, and Yanks dancing with local girls with happy faces and saxophone dreams at different places.
The place was jumping, really, if you know. And a lot of white people used to come because we had music there, you know, than other clubs with nothing happening, you know, just stand there and drink. These were actually quite good clubs, you know, visiting people who come from London.
It was amazing. You got a lot of people from over the water here on the other side of the Mersey used to hear about the music in Liverpool 8. And we'd be playing and then people would come up and talk to you and tell you how far they'd come to listen to the music because there was no music around in them days. And they come from all over the place.
Hold on, isn't that Shirley Bassey?
People from the north end of Liverpool were like teenagers, like myself, for instance, were told by various people of your family, don't go in the south end, don't go down Parliament Street, and don't go here, then, you know, like, they pinpointed, don't ever go down by the Rialto. Well, I went.
Liverpool 8 was always the magnet type of thing. The club scene in Liverpool 8 was always a magnet thing. I should imagine like similar to like Harlem, you know, for people from all over the city.
The south end of the city, I thought, was the instigator of all the clubs.
The Palm Beach.
Jokers, Palm Cove.
And then there was the Nigeria Club.
George Wilkie's.
Parliament Street.
And there was the Somali Club and
the Polish Club, Palm Cove, the Beacon.
God, there was hundreds of them, you know. And of course they all had their brand of music.
African music.
Caribbean music.
Harmony, jazz,
Calypsos.
jive.
Which again put a big influence on any up-and-coming musicians in the city. So out of that, if you can imagine this, you know, this big pot of boiling music, I think this is where the Liverpool sound, if you want to have a thing, actually originated from.
This sounds like the Liverpool sound, these jangling guitars. But who was the first to jangle? Give us a clue.
I think Liverpool has influenced a lot of people of guitar playing. And I mean, 3 guitars and drums, we had them in the early 50s. So that's going back a long time. So I think Liverpool did influence a lot of people with guitar music. And the other parts of the city, a lot of them people come up from the North End, so maybe a lot of people down there would also influence. I'll never know unless they come and tell us, but I'm sure they was.
I knew Odie Taylor, like, you know, I was aware of Odie. I mean, Odie was looked at with reverence, you know, because Odie was a superb guitar player, you know. And wherever there was any little jazz clubs on or guitar clubs, you know, us budding country musicians would go along there and have a listen to them, and we'd have sits in with them, and we used to have a really, you could definitely call it a colourful band. I used to play good country music and all, you know, because then Odie and I could fit in right away, you know.
There was a lot of good players around. You had Eddie Hamilton, you had Eddie Jenkins, and then you've also got Eddie's son, Charlie, who was a very good guitarist. So we all learned one another. I got it off the Jenkinses, and I passed it on to the other lads.
Hey, Lonnie, that's really nice, man.
I heard about these guys playing in the White House, which was a pub in Duke Street. And I went down there, and it was Wally Corliss, who I was later to be in the in-crowd with, George Dixon and Norman Fraser, and they called themselves the Casuals at the time. And it was just 3 guitars, you know, but they were incredible, these guys, because it was all jazz chords these people were playing, you know. I mean, it wasn't like a 3-chord thing, you know, it was all incredible chords, you know.
Every musician in Liverpool used to go to the White House. Like, say, these 2 guys that was always dressed in black came every Monday to see us. We didn't know who they were, and somebody said, well, who are they? And somebody said, well, it's a band called the Beatles. They've just formed, like, you know, so we paid no attention to them, because as far as we were concerned, there was a skiffle group. Oh, they could only play, like, 2 or 3 chords, where we was into multi-chords and augmented and God knows what, like, you know.
I remember going to the Pavilion Theatre in Lodge Lane, which used to have jazz concerts on a Sunday night, and seeing Chris Barber band, used to be a big favourite of mine. And Chris Barber, Lonnie Donegan, and 2 other guys formed this little group. And they called it skiffle. You know, I'd never heard of it before, you know. I started playing all these strange songs, and it was, you know, just brilliant, you know. And I thought, well, they're only playing 3 chords, I can play 3 chords, you know. And basically got into skiffle that way, because it's a do-it-yourself type music. They improvise with a tea chest and a cut-down brush pole and a piece of string on it, you know. It just sounded like a double bass, you know. And then instead of having drums, all you needed was a washboard and some thimbles out your mum's sewing basket.
Cat's on the cover, but he don't see me. Down the rock of the night, she's a mighty good road.
It's all black American folk songs. You know, the association between skiffle and jazz was, you know, was very close. And Cavern Club was, when it first opened, was just totally jazz. So the you know, the beatniks that were down the Cavern in them days, they took a liking to it, you know. So we got a regular spot every Sunday, you know.
It started off as jazz, then it started diversifying to a bit of country one night, a bit of folk another night.
Walls of sound. It's taken off this underground music, from cellar parties to cellar clubs. And now people are saying there's another one.
Yes, I've been hitchhiking on the continent, and we hit Paris, the Saint Miguel area, and there were lots of these jazz clubs. Sidney Bechet was playing there, and I thought, if you could only open something like that in Liverpool, it would make a bomb. and we opened the Jacaranda.
Okay, same time, same place, as we move to the lively rhythmic flows of Calypso.
It's very arty. Very arty. You know, basically, you know, it was the people those days, you called them beatniks, you know, and it was a very beatniky place, you know. It wasn't very cosmopolitan, really, but the thing was that they had a steel band that played there all the time, you know. The resident band was a steel band, there was a wood band, Lord Wood Band.
I came down to the club one night and there was no steel band, and the waitress, Audrey, said, "Didn't you know they've gone to Hamburg?" Well, it could have been out of Mongolia for, you know. And so they wrote to me saying, "You should come over to Hamburg." So I went with Woody, Lord Woodbine, and we went to this club called the Kaiser Keller. And there was an awful German band playing with no rhythm, just singing. I can still hear the guy singing, "Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy," and the kids were bored. So I found out where the manager, who he was, and I sold him the idea of having, you know, bands from Liverpool.
They went crazy, man. You know, over there, the club was packed, man. The Kaiser Keller Club. We blew them. And he started doing different material, like Skinny Minnie, which the Germans freak out on. They all want to jump on stage and do it, literally. They'd never seen anything like it. They thought I was crazy, yet they loved it.
Howie Casey and Derry were the first band to hit the Hamburg scene from Liverpool. And of course, they were sensational. Derry used to move around that stage on the dance floor and they'd drive the Germans absolutely crazy. So much so that when the Beatles came, you've heard of this Mac show. Well, it was because he wanted them to make show, as it were, because Derry had the whole of the audience in his palm of his hand, as it were.
While I was in Germany, Paul McCartney said to me one day, "Get us a bevy," like, I went, "I've got no money." He went, "I've got a record. You haven't heard this," like, because there was a bit of rivalry then, like, for new records. We couldn't get them as often over there as we could here. We played What I Say by Ray Charles, and I went mad because it was great. And they played it as the last number that evening. And my band had learned all the chords, and I'd learned the lyrics. And every band in Liverpool ended their set with What I Say. Ray Charles is a great influence on many musicians in this country.
When I think about it now, what I used to listen to then, the music the Beatles used to play, and I didn't know where the music came from. And I was so amazed that they were all black musicians coming from America.
Go on, Richie, let off.
It was our music, but it had been taken away from us, you know what I mean? It was being kind of established, you know, taken over by the establishment type of thing, you know what I mean? It had become the property of other people.
Groups of youngsters like these have teamed together with one ambition, to top the hit parade.
Shake it up, baby, shake it up, baby.
The groups were on every corner, every cellar club, every house. The whole city was throbbing with music. Nothing like it was happening anywhere else in the world.
I got talking to John, and I was saying, "Oh, I've got a band, you know. I've got a band as well." And he was going, "Oh, yeah, you've got a band." He said, "Oh, come down to the Cavern, you know, come down to the Cavern when we're doing a lunchtime on Tuesday or something, and we'll have a listen to it, you know."
I received a phone call in the office from Bob Wooler. "Bill, you've got to get down the Cavern. We've got this group called The Chance. They're absolutely fantastic."
We all got onto the stage, and I sort of gave a note like, you know, and we all started to sing then, you know.
Jane, my baby's got me locked up in chains, but they ain't the kind that you can't see.
Everybody was totally knocked down, you know, they were totally knocked down.
Oh, these chains of love got a hold on me, yeah.
They were fantastic. I'd not heard anything like them. That was great. I thought, there's nothing like this in Britain at all.
And they were saying, who are you boys signed with? Who are you boys? Are you signed with anybody?
Chains, my baby's got me locked up in chains, but they ain't the kind that you can see.
And the Beatles were enchanted, and they wanted to back them, you know, because they needed their musical backing at the time, and Brian Epstein wouldn't allow them to. John Lennon overruled them and said, we're backing the Chance. So the Beatles became the Chance first backing band.
Whoa, these chains of love got a hold on me, yeah.
Eppie summons me, you know, to his office, and he said, look, I'd like to put you boys under contract and be your manager and all that, and yeah, you know, signed it, you know. And it wasn't long after that that the Beatles made their first record. And then Brian and the Beatles sort of vanished.
For some reason it didn't happen, and the Chance didn't happen in Britain, and I always said that for some reason the British record buying public would accept eventually sort of records by black American artists, but they wouldn't accept them by black British artists.
Nobody wanted them, you know, basically. Nobody was looking for black bands, you know. I mean, it's never changed today. It's the same now. They're still looking for pretty white boy bands, you know.
I saw him, and I thought it was really a cute face, you know. I thought, kids have got to like this, you know. And I signed him up on the strength of his face.
I mean, it's today, isn't it? I mean, it's the same thing today, you know. I mean, you know, hip-hop belongs to nobody now, you know. I mean, it's been taken over by everybody.
Not a single of the fantastic black vocal groups from Liverpool ever really made it in the 60s, and they deserved it because they were as good as anything around in the charts.
So there'll always be a smother of smoke burning somewhere, you know, there's a little spark of fire, and it will always flare up again. I'll be gone, and many of us will be gone, but it'll be this, for instance, like probably some lullaby or some little tale that your parents taught you when you was a boy, that got away from you, but now and then it will come back to you.
We took something to them which we gathered in our souls maybe from different parts of the world in Liverpool, growing up as kids. And we started to share it with the world.
There was a flavour of maybe every country in the music when we were playing, and people enjoyed that, so they come down to listen, and I think maybe take some of us away themselves and use it themselves. So I think that way we influenced a lot of people in Liverpool. So if we're remembered for that, that's not too bad.
One day, I may be one of the older guys, and I may meet a youth who thinks there's nothing happening, but he wants to know the truth. I'll say, now I know the story, but it isn't yet complete. The word on the street is we put the beat in merseybeat.